Welcome to our channel today. I'd like to give a special welcome to the new subscribers we've gotten. We do appreciate every single subscriber when you click on our channel, because it's knowing that you're out there. It helps us know to make these videos and that you're enjoying them. So we really do appreciate every single person that subscribes. Today we're in the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. The park is primarily about the mountains themselves, the Grand Tetons. It's a range about 40 miles long that runs along the western edge of what's called Jackson Hole. In the days of the fur trappers in these mountains, every valley they saw, they ended up calling it a hole. So Jackson Hole is named after one of those trappers. Today it's got a town of Jackson in it and the national park, and it's a very beautiful part of the country. The valley itself is formed by the Grand Tetons on the west and the Gros Ventre Mountains on the east. And so it's a very spectacular part of the country. The mountains are formed along a fault which runs right along the base of the mountains. The fault separates the mountains in the valley to the east. During the earthquake that happened about 600 years ago, they tell us that the mountains raised several feet, but the valley fell about 8 feet, which was more than the mountains raised, for however that mathematics works. They also tell us that there's an earthquake along that fault line about every 1,000 years, so we have about 400 years more to go before we see some more spectacular movement in that part of the world. The Snake River runs through the valley, and that's a very beautiful part of what you can see when you're out there. We'll take you around to some different spots in the park where we were able to shoot some pictures. The access by car is primarily in the valley because the mountains just don't have roads into them. There are, however, about 500 miles of trails that go into the mountains, and so it's fairly easy to get up in there. The peaks are climbed every year by a bunch of people, not sure how many, but we did see one small crew actually climbing up near the peak of Grand Teton itself when we were out there. So that was a rather spectacular sight, although they were pretty small from where we were. We do hope you enjoyed this video visit to Grand Tetons National Park. Driving back down from Signal Mountain, the mountaintop, stopped at the Jackson Point Overlook, and it is a beautiful, gorgeous view back up towards the mountains and Jackson Lake and the valley, so it would be a great place to stop. It'd be a great place to do sunrise pictures with the sunrise hitting the mountains there. I think that could be some spectacular shots there as well. I took 2 or 3 photographs there. And the GoPro has died, so I thought it was completely charged. I know it was last night. So it didn't last all that long in today, what I've been doing. So kind of somewhat surprising, but well, I just have to start carrying spare batteries for the GoPro and or a charging cable. Since it's a USB-C, it's a different cable than everything else is. One of our first stops, we just went into the park to look around on our first day in town, was at Schwabacher Landing. It's a landing on the Snake River. And it's a fairly easy walk there, and there's a trail that runs along the river, so it's nice and flat, goes for several miles. So there's a fair amount of wildlife, in particular a couple of different kinds of ducks that are on there. There's a beaver pond, there are active beavers in there, as well as, of course, a number of fish in the river itself. So hope you enjoy our visit to Schwabacher Landing. I've never tried night photography before, so being we're in a spot with very low light pollution and some clear skies and the moon being in the right phase that the stars are going to be very visible, I did go out one night around midnight to do some photography of the Milky Way. So we'll show you some of those pictures. From my first attempt out, I thought they came out pretty good. One of the areas of the park is called Mormon Row. This area was settled by Mormon pioneers somewhere in the early 1900s, very early 1900s, and they farmed in the area until about 1950. And there was a gentleman named T.A. Moulton who built barns and other buildings which were just absolute works of art with the woodwork that he did. It's an iconic picture of the Grand Teton National Park. So one morning I took off for sunrise, was out there with several other photographers. We were able to catch the barn in some of that early morning light, which is so great for photographs. We are on our way from Swan Valley back over to Grand Teton National Park. See how much this thing bounces around. To see if we can find some elusive wildlife. So far we've gotten some decent pictures and enjoyed the park, but have not seen much inside the park in the way of wildlife. I've seen 5 deer and a moose, but all of it outside of the park confines. So it's not had the same access, at least, to wildlife that some other places where we've been. So what are you hoping to see tonight, Chris?
Well, definitely a moose. And of course there's bear there, but we haven't seen bear either. Elk, haven't seen. So a number of animals that would be a possibility. But we have seen water ducks, and you saw a beaver, I believe.
No, I saw a beaver lodge. Did not see the actual beavers, and saw a number of prairie dogs and other small varmints running around, but no big animals, which is kind of the scope of what you'd like to see. So we will go take pictures if we find something and report back. Well, the other night we did not find any wildlife to look at. Went several different places, drove a couple of roads, but it didn't work out for us. So I am here at Cascade Canyon, which is a spot recommended for sunrise, sunset photography. You'll see the sunrise in the background. The mountains are on the other side of me. I'll do a pan shot here in a minute. So we're going to see if we can catch some golden light on these mountain peaks and make a pretty picture out of it. It's been an interesting morning so far. I made it over to the Cascade Canyon turnout, which is a view back at the mountains, and got to catch the morning sun as it was coming up. There was some cloud cover back to the east, so it made some interesting lights at different times. And that was a good shoot. And I went to Oxbow Bend and got some good shots there. I think of the reflection in the river. It's not as quiet as it might be earlier in the morning, but it's still, I think it was a good shoot there. And I went up to the top of Signal Mountain and did a little bit there. Not a great light this time of day for taking pictures off there. It'd be better much later in the afternoon, but there should be one good shot at least back of Grand Teton. And we did see a coyote. Got a chance to stop and shoot some pictures of him, and saw a big elk herd going across the road. But the rangers here appear to not want to let people get anywhere close to the animals, so they kept people moving around the elk herd, and it was not a good thing. They wouldn't let you stop and take pictures, which I thought was really not good, because the herd was going away from the road and was, I don't think, a danger to anybody. They were far enough away it would not have been a big issue. But they wanted to keep everybody moving, so I didn't stop. But it might be a good place to go back in the evening and watch if the herd comes the other way, going back down to the river to their grazing grounds. Might be sometime late afternoon they would cross at that same spot. It's really hard to tell, or be there in the morning at about whatever time that was, probably about 8 o'clock or so. They were heading back somewhere else. So we're at about 9 o'clock in the morning right now on the top of Signal Mountain, and getting ready to go take a boat ride across the lake and take a hike up to a hidden waterfall. We'll see how that goes, and we'll let you know.
Scenic Lake's a natural glacial lake. It was created by the glacier. It came out of Cascade Canyon a long time ago. Its deepest spot's 256 feet, or 78 meters deep. When we get to the other side, we'll talk some about the hiking trails, so just have a nice ride across. So you're going to take a left off of the boat dock. It's a half mile up to the falls, and then from the falls to Inspiration Point's another half mile. It'll feel like a bit more because it's uphill. And then if you're going up into Cascade Canyon, just continue up from Inspiration Point for about a quarter mile and you'll be up in the mouth of the canyon there. Just remember, you're in the backcountry, there's no facilities. You need to carry out everything you're carrying in with you. This includes any food scraps, apple cores, banana peels, all that needs to get carried out. It's very important that we don't feed any of the wildlife. Can't stress that enough. Do not feed the wildlife. It is bear country over here. There are bears and other very large mammals. If you're lucky enough to see one, just make sure you give it plenty of space. Yeah. It's their home over here, and we're just wandering around. So our boats come and go every 10 to 15 minutes. Last boat's at 7 p.m. tonight. If you're not taking the boat, if you're not taking the boat back with us, it's 3 miles around the south end of the lake or 5 miles around the north end of the lake.
quite a hike, but we're on the boat.
Yeah, left just a shade later than we should have. Forgot about the line at the check-in. By the time we got to the visitor center, there was almost no parking left, so we're parked way out at the edge on the access road. But we got here at 2 minutes to spare for boat time, and they loaded it pretty much on time, so we'll go take a boat tour of Jenny Lake.
All right. My name's Marty. I'm going to hang out with you for the next hour. We're going to take a little cruise around the lake here. I got a couple safety things I need to talk to you about before we go. If we're stopped here chatting, you're welcome to get up, wander around, take pictures, get that Christmas card photo, whatever you need to do. So that's kind of the way this will go. This is my 7th year working here in the park, 5 years on these boats. Spent a couple years up at Signal Mountain when I first came out. I just come out for the summertime. I have a place down in Tampa. I spend the winter. So my wife and I come out. She works for the Park Service, volunteers for the Park Service actually. So we come out in an RV and stay here in the park. So a pretty good gig for us. Gives us an opportunity to give back a little bit. I grew up in upstate New York, actually, up in Schenectady. Spent a lot of time up in the Adirondacks. So kind of got to loving the mountains up there. So I really enjoy coming out here for the summertime. Where are you guys all from? South Dakota, I remember that. You guys are from Carolinas. Where else? Dallas, Utah,
Minnesota.
Austin, Texas.
Kentucky. Whereabouts in Kentucky? Louisville. All right. I got everybody? I think so. All right. What we're going to do here, we're going to chat about some things that have changed over the years here, transformation. We'll talk about geology changes a little bit. No, won't get into that too much unless somebody wants to. We can talk about wildlife management changes. We can talk about people that have come and gone and the impact they've had on this area. So any of those things are fair game. But it is your hour, so these things are always a lot more fun if they're conversational. So questions are more than welcome. So that's kind of how this will go. My daughter actually lives out here, so I got a couple grandkids out here, and that's kind of what brought me out here in the first place. So she came out here right after college, spent one summer, spent another winter, another summer, and that was 16 years ago. So a couple grandkids here, so it's a pretty good summer for us. All right, first time here for everybody in the Tetons?
Yes.
Yeah. Really? Nobody else? Nobody's been here before.
We have.
You guys have. Okay. Okay. Not on the boat though. All right. Good deal. Anybody come to this park as a destination park, or they're just kind of passing through on the way to Yellowstone?
Destination park.
Really?
Passing through.
Super. All right. Yeah, most people are just passing through and just kind of stumble onto this park. So, all right. So, you guys that are from the East Coast, familiar with the Appalachians a little bit. You guys from out this way, familiar with the Rockies. These mountains are going to look a little bit different to you. We're going to cruise down the lake here, 5-10 minutes, get a better view into the canyon. As we're going by, think about what's different about these mountains and what you're used to back home, and we'll get started down there. Sound like a plan?
That's good.
All right. All right, so this is one of the major sources of water coming in this lake. Where's all the water coming from? Snow melt, yeah, 505 inches of snow this past winter. But right off the bow here, what happened? We had a fire here back in 1999, 20 years ago. Fire burned 300 acres. Actually started right over here, lightning strike.
I'm walking back to the car. We did make it to the boat in time, just barely, but we got there, so that was good. But we did park quite a ways away. Picked the first available parking spot along the road, not in the parking lot. So I left Chris behind while I go get the car, and I'll go back and pick her up. This is the last day at the park, so I wanted to get up before sunrise and go out to the overlook and get some pictures of the sunlight hitting the Grand Tetons as it comes up over the valley and the lake that's visible there. So hope those pictures will come out good and you'll enjoy those as we show you the last of our views from Grand Teton National Park. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this video of Grand Teton National Park as much as we enjoyed being in the park and having a chance to visit that spectacular countryside. We had been here in 1991 when our kids were still at home, so had a great time in the park. Didn't spend nearly as much time as we were able to this year, which is one of the many benefits of being retired and being full-time in the motorhome. We go where we want, when we want, and can stay pretty much as long as we want most of the time. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we'd appreciate it if you would do that. It does help us out. And if you'd like to be notified when we post a new video, please click on the bell icon. That'll let YouTube send you a notification when we post a new video. In the meantime, we hope you're enjoying your travels as you go around this wonderful country, and as we travel around it, perhaps we'll meet together someday. In the meantime, as I always say, keep her between the ditches as you drive.